In the mid-part of the 1800s, America was being ripped apart. Political, cultural, economic, moral differences were forcing apart the North and the South. Neighbor would turn on neighbor, brother on brother. In fewer places was this more apparent than in the border states. Some states choosing not to secede, but also not joining the Confederacy. Kentucky never seceded, even though there were many within its borders who felt Southern sympathies. Even within Nelson County, we had sons fighting fathers, brothers fighting brothers, neighbor against neighbor. We were a nation, a state, a county divided.
General Leonidas Polk, who was headquartered first at the houses on the Springfield Road. Today we have Maywood, and the house that was there was his headquarters for a short time, as well as the Crozier House, which also was on the Springfield Road. He was in command of the right wing of the Army of Mississippi. After Braxton Bragg left Bardstown to go to Frankfort, Leonidas Polk moved into his headquarters, which was at Edgewood, the home of Ben Hardin. Ben Hardin Helm, the grandson of Ben Hardin, was a general in the Southern Army, and they were sure they'd be welcome at Ben Hardin's house. Now, Ben Hardin was dead at this time, but again, the people who lived there were very Southern in sympathy. So Braxton Bragg and Leonidas Polk both were headquartered at Edgewood in the city of Bardstown. The left wing was commanded by General William Hardee, and his headquarters was at the James Marshall Brown house, also Joseph Brown house. These were two brothers who lived very close together. Colonel Walton and Colonel Joseph Wheeler were the cavalry units, cavalry commanders. And when I say around Bardstown, they were the ones who were out the Louisville Road and making sure that the Army was not going to be surprised by Union scouts. The communications between all of these, of course, you had a messenger on horseback that was riding from place to place, carrying notes and directions and orders. And when the ride from the Maywood site to Edgewood to Joseph Brown's home and out the Woodlawn Road, there was another unit out on the Woodlawn Road. That was quite a ride on horseback, and there was more than one messenger. Often during war, the messengers were more important than the scouts, because getting orders to your troops was not as simple as picking up a phone like we would today. You had to have something written and they had to have it in hand. Otherwise, they were on their own, had to make their own decisions. Bardstown also had to use the hospitals that the Union soldiers had been using the hospitals. Now, Bragg wanted to rent the hospital at the same rates, the same agreement that the Union had been using it. With 26,000 soldiers, you had many who had been injured on the trip, had gotten sick. One might have fallen off the horse, been kicked by something, whatever. You had a lot of sick soldiers, and they filled the hospitals very quickly. September 22nd to October 4th, this was the time that Braxton Bragg and 26,000 Confederates would occupy Bardstown and the suburbs all around it. Bragg's army was short of food, short of water, and short of rest. And here in Bardstown, they were going to be able to at least help some of those shortages. The local farmers, the local businessmen, realized with all of these soldiers the opportunity to sell. And maybe the soldier needed new boots, maybe they needed another shirt or different things. They also, of course, wanted fresh food. Apples and pork and anything that would help them, because they'd been walking for over a month from Tennessee. It's Bragg's responsibility to be sure that his soldiers were fed and the animals were taken care of. And they had run out of food with their long trek. And here in Bardstown, they were going to be able to stop and start gathering it back together again. The rest, if you walked every day for 30 days, and here you knew you were going to stay at least more than a day or two. And when they arrived on September 22nd, they would stay to October 4th. That's quite a long rest. That was a mistake on Bragg's part, militarily, because that allowed Colonel Buell to go to Louisville and get reinforcements and more supplies and all. Up until that point, when Bragg turned and went east from Hodgensville, he was ahead of Buell on the way to Louisville. But the shortage of food and forage for his animals caused him to look to the east to resupply his army, and I think also to gather with his generals and his officers and determine what should be done next here in Kentucky. We have an account from a sister of Nazareth. When she was a little girl at Nazareth, she remembers the invasion of Bardstown by Braxton Bragg and the Confederate Army, because she said Generals Bragg and Hardee and Buckner, who was the Kentuckian, paid a visit to the Nazareth Academy, and all of the girls, most of whom were Southern girls who had been going to school there as a boarding school, they were very excited and very happy because all they had seen up to then were Union soldiers. And they were singing, they would sing Dixie and Jump on the Wagon, and they were just extremely happy and entertaining to the Confederate soldiers. The generals were meeting very gracious to the sisters, and the younger soldiers were all talking to the young girls and telling them where they were from and all that. And Sister Marietta Murphy, who was the SCN who wrote this later in life, she said General Bragg leaned against the pillar, watching everything going on. He listened while the youthful minstrel sang, but the old warrior smiled not. He appeared to be tired and serious in his demeanor. And for the young girl to remember that, he must have been very serious. This is September 25th of 1862, and he had to make some serious decisions about where he was going to go next and what was going to happen.